Hey YouTube, welcome to episode 3 of our bareboating adventure. In this episode we're going to do some snorkelling at Maureen's Cove. Now the water wasn't as clear as I might have hoped, and the coral is certainly still exhibiting damage from the cyclone the previous year, but I did enjoy it immensely. For this snorkel I entered the water from the beach. I sat on the edge of the water and put on my gear, and then I just gently rolled into the water, as befitting my age and dignity. And as it's November and it's the beginning of the stinger season up here, my wife insisted that we wear stinger suits. It is quite nice to know that she's not ready to collect the insurance yet, although being the beginning of the season, it's probably quite safe. Nevertheless, better safe than sorry. There is an added benefit to a stinger suit, of course, and that is if you don't have a wetsuit, it does afford some minor protection from the coral if you happen to brush up against it. I dived on a reef at Great Keppel Island many years ago, and that was also just after a cyclone. Prior to that, I didn't really appreciate that the cyclone did any damage to a reef, because after all, the reef's underwater, the cyclone's in the air above it. What harm could it do? Well, when you see it, it's amazing the harm it does. The tidal surge it causes, I guess, the water's pushed around. How, I don't know, but gee, it just wipes out the coral. Now, there's no doubt this isn't a new phenomenon. It's obviously been happening ever since there's been reefs and weather around, and the reef manages to recover, or if it doesn't, eventually it grows again. Might take hundreds or even thousands of years, but it's just a natural cycle. Nevertheless, it's quite amazing to see it. Even though a lot of the beauty of the reef has been destroyed, at least in my eyes, the fish still call it home, and I had a lot of fun following the little ones around, and eventually I found some not so little ones. But they're all sorts of colours. I don't really know the names of any of them, or many of them at least. I know the names of some of the species that I target when I'm fishing, but other than that, the rest are just colourful reef fish. One thing that always mildly surprises me when I'm swimming around a reef is that the fish don't seem to be scared of me. They don't sort of mistake me for a shark and think I'm about to eat them. I must admit, if I got a spear gun in my hand, I'm very likely to. Nevertheless, the fish don't seem to be scared, and I can only assume that they rely on numbers and the fact that no matter how many are eaten, enough will survive to continue the species. Now this fish was a big fella. He was at least as long as my arm from the elbow to the tip of my fingers, so made him quite a good eating size. The only thing that saved him was the fact that I didn't have a spear gun with me, and that Maureen Cove is a protected area where you're not allowed to fish. So maybe he knew he was perfectly safe and wasn't worried at all. This fella's another reasonable sized fish. He's not quite as big as the last one, but the water's not clear enough for me to be 100% sure of the species at this range, but he looks as though he'd be legal sized for whatever species he is. And I note the way he's just sitting there between two of the big rocks, waiting for prey to come past so that he can have a feed. As a fisherman, all this sort of information is very interesting. Gives me a real knowledge of how the fish behave around the reef, how they use the rocks and coral to move around, staying quite close to them and using them as cover or protection from the larger fish. Basically that means if you want to catch fish around a reef, you're going to have to throw your line into where it's likely to get snagged. So catching reef fish, expect to lose some tackle. Everything that I've seen of the fish behaviour around the reef in this snorkelling trip is stuff that I've known. I've been told about it by other fishermen. You sort of suss it out for yourself when you think about how they would behave, but it still puts it into some perspective to actually get into the water and see it in action. I think that snorkeling helps me be a better fisherman because I have a better knowledge of the structure of the reef and how the fish behave around that structure. Now, it doesn't have to be a particular reef, it can be any reef, any pile of rocks. It just means structure on the ground, how the fish like to use it, and how they behave around it. Now, this fella's a nice parrotfish, and it's one of my favourite fish. Not only is it good eating, but the colours are just simply beautiful. Really like that fish. Really like to eat it too. There must be some good eating around here, because this is the biggest collection of fish I've seen in any one spot in the entire snorkeling trip. Now, speaking of eating, that puts me in mind of the snorkeling I did just a few hours ago in order to reconnoitre the reef. I didn't take my camera there, which was quite a tragedy, because I happened to be on the spot as this big snapper came along and gobbled up a squid. Would have made an excellent video. but because it was just a quick snorkel for a reconnoiter, I didn't bother taking a video, and lesson learned, never go anywhere without a camera prepared. Now here's a pretty large clamshell as clamshells go. It's not nearly as large as giant clams that I saw as a kid up off Green Island or Cairns. They were about 3 or 4 foot across. So I dived down on this one so I could stick my hand out across it and give you some idea of the size. Probably about the best part of 8 inches or 20 centimetres across, which makes it a pretty fair sized clam, and I can only guess that it's been dislodged by the cyclone and died, or perhaps some fish managed to get into it and eat it and the shell's left behind. Nevertheless, because this is a protected area, you can't touch shells either, even if the creature inside them is dead. They have to remain in place. So that's what I did. I left it sit where I found it. Now I'm just swimming back through the shallows here so that you can get a look at all the broken coral on the floor. The tree coral here has just been decimated. I don't think I saw any of it standing when I was snorkeling. It just litters the floor here and all up the beach as well. And there's my dive buddy there, sitting on the beach under her sunshade, keeping an eye on me while I'm out snorkeling. And this is just a quick look underneath the boat. You can see a small keel under the hull of the catamaran. You can also see the sail drive sticking down like the leg of an outboard motor. And of course the rudder, which is really quite huge. A lot bigger than I expected it to be. There's the angelfish hanging around looking for a handout, quite friendly and quite unafraid. I don't think you'll see it on a phone, but if you're viewing this on a computer or a TV screen, you might just see big schools of baitfish, about an inch or so long, and I think the angelfish are having quite a time feasting on them. Hey, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I do hope we've managed to entertain you for a little while today. In the next video we'll be leaving Maureen's Cove and heading on down to Whitehaven. That's another fairly long journey from the top end of Hook Island down towards the bottom end of Whitsunday Island. Beautiful place though. Until next time.